Okay, Marcia Riner, thank you so much for joining us today on the Coach Launch podcast.
Thanks, Matthew, for having me. This is great.
Looking forward to jumping in. So, welcome back to the Coach Launch podcast, guys. I'm thrilled to introduce today's awesome guest who is truly transforming how business owners operate and approach growth and profitability. Joining us today is Marcia Riner, a business growth strategist and the CEO of Infinite Profits. With over 25 years of experience, Marcia has mastered the art of turning strategy into structured, profitable growth for service-based entrepreneurs. Today, she is the driving force behind Profit with a Plan podcast and the creator of the innovative Profit Booster podcast Monetization Hub, which I'm going to dive into and find out more about today. This is really awesome, where she helps podcasters and thought leaders transform their visibility into consistent revenue streams. When business owners are serious about creating intentional profits and growth that are built to last and not just chasing shiny tactics, they call Marcia. Awesome, Marcia. Let's jump in and get into this.
Yay, I'm excited. This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm looking forward to it.
Love it. So the idea, we were just talking before about the idea of podcasts and how powerful they are and some of the great relationships you can build through podcasting and how much of a powerful monetization tool it is. Tell me some of the results that you've seen or experienced or your clients have had from this whole podcasting experience.
Well, podcasting done well can really, truly be a fantastic PR tool that really creates that trust and authority and allows your prospective clients to really get to know you on a deeper level before they start to talk to you, before you start doing your discovery call and before you start, talking business with them, because this is a long-term vehicle that can be out there for years and years and years. And so that's why I love it so much. But some of the returns and results that have been fantastic from this is that, like I said, when done right, it can be a lead generation tool and a soft closing tool and a tool that brings your prospective clients closer to you so that you can nurture them in a little bit of a longer relationship until they're ready to buy.
Love it. And so tell me, how many podcasts so far in the past? Like, how many have you done, this experience that you've built?
Crazy. Well, this experience came from building 7 years. I can't believe it's been 7 years. This is bonkers. 7 years and 340 episodes that are in the can. I do a podcast every week, and I found that, it was harder than it needed to be. So I just kind of figured and hacked my way through it until I found a system that worked really well for me. And then I decided to share it. I mean, it was that kind of simple. I was in an event a couple years ago, and this girl gets up on stage. Her name was Hala, and she gets up on stage and she's talking about being young and profitable. And I'm like, and how she uses podcasts and kind of fell into it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could totally do that. I mean, why am I not sharing my knowledge and my podcasting experience out? And that's when it kind of transformed. And then I did what I always do and build a whole bunch of stuff out and then start testing it. So kind of fell into it, but it's an awesome tool.
What has it done for your business and your exposure? Like, what has that meant for you?
So when you type my name, when you type Marcia Riner into Google, I own like the first 3 or 4 pages of Google because I've
Wow.
got podcasts and I've got long form content and I've got videos ripped out of it and I've got newsletters ripped from it and, so much stuff. So then now I instantly, free as well, became an authority in my space. And when done well with SEO, you can really leverage this tool for marketing that lasts forever. And you can get from one really good podcast, you can rip a half a dozen to a dozen short clips and videos that really key in on your differentiation, your magic sauce, right? And that becomes your marketing. It's mindless. I can't believe people haven't been using what they get out of it. I find that what they end up doing, the wrong thing people do with their podcasts, is they get up on stage or they get to the microphone, they talk for a little while and smile, and then they post one time and then go, why didn't I get anything?
That's it. And you're so right. For me personally, and been doing this for a little while now, and we're starting to do that even more now. It's like crazy, like the amount of content that a podcast can actually produce when you're working, like when you got good like good guests on your podcast and the content that comes out of it. And you're learning so much through this collaborative experience. Why you're not sharing it with the world, right?
And it's funny. One of my mentors is fantastic in speaking in sound bites. So she's got these little clips that she says all the time that reference something really important and she gives the answer, or when she gets asked a question, she repeats the question and gives a really brief answer and then elaborates on it. So that first 20 seconds or 30 seconds is powerful, right? And that's a skill set that you can learn when you're getting better at podcasting. But yeah, if you do that, you can rip a whole bunch of clips and have quotes, and it could be amazing stuff.
I really love that. And podcasting for me has changed the game for me. Like I have to say, let's take this angle, right? So a lot of people are afraid. They say they want to do a podcast, right? There's obviously the group of people that are doing the thing, but there's a lot of people that are stuck with the not taking action, right? They're like, I'm afraid of doing a podcast. How do I get a guest? Who's the person that I should be talking to? How do I find my kind of angle in all this? What should I say? How do you talk about those few things? Because there's the first step, right? Actually starting a podcast. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a podcast doesn't necessarily have to be a marketing tool in that you're going to get traffic. However, it can be also angled in a way that you're connecting with people to create relationships and building rapport. But before we go into that, let's take the step back. How do you get people to take action and actually get into the space? What would you encourage people to do?
I remember my first 20 or 30 podcasts. It would take me multiple takes, and I'd get my hair all done, and I'd look into the camera and I'd go, hi, welcome to. My girlfriend goes, who the F is that, right? It was terrible. And finally, when I got out of my own head and I stopped looking at myself in the camera and looked at the little green light above the camera and just talked about things that I really knew and felt confident about, it just happened. So I can't say it's going to happen for everybody like that, but get out of your own head and stop trying to make it perfect. You need a couple things. Well, first of all, I always recommend that people start their podcasting journey as a guest. Go get on other people's podcasts, show up with your hair and makeup done or whatever, your face on, and your content. Be ready to deliver awesome stuff and get comfortable talking on camera with a microphone. Then, when you feel comfortable doing that, then kind of lean into, do I really want to do my own show? I think that's a better path than just starting out. But when you do it, you need a couple things. You need a ring light, you need a laptop with a camera, and you need a high quality microphone. That's it. Zoom is what I do mine on. I think you're doing yours on Descript, or many people use Riverside. Very inexpensive way to get started.
And I love that. I think besides the tech costs, I mean, it's not that expensive to set up, as you said. I think the biggest cost that you've highlighted there is perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Right?
Yes.
People feeling they're not good enough together. Talk to me about what would you recommend to break through those two barriers?
Well, like I said, my first podcast I studied for, I trained myself. I had this long built out script and they were terrible. They were horrible. But when I found being comfortable talking about something I knew, then I had bullet points and I went, right? I tried to keep my answers short and bring it back to the host, but I just went. And I think that's the best way to do it. So I would encourage the listeners, if they're considering podcasting, which you should, then the best thing to do is go, okay, what do I really know? And I like to use podcasting for my business and not just random topics. So, what do I know that my ideal client or the ideal audience would really like to hear about? Maybe it's a problem they're suffering with and that I could solve. And then I talk about ways that I could solve that. Now I'm adding value. I'm talking about something that I know. I'm bringing potential opportunities to myself. And, I'm getting the exposure that I need, right? I mean, that to me just makes it so much easier when you're talking about what you know.
Love it. And the thing is that I found is that you to get started, it's just taking action, right? It's just doing one or two. And my first ones were absolutely terrible. I remember my very first one, a lady in one of those communities that I was in said she wanted to appear on a podcast. And I was like, I might as well just give this a try. And she literally, all she did was she asked me these weird random questions about my studio because we do virtual events, and she was interested about the tech that we do. And so that was my first, but it was absolute disaster. But I still put it up. I put it up. It's still there. You can go and watch that. It was a great learning experience. And then from there, I realized that if I wanted to do this, I just had to jump in and just do the thing, right? What are
Is,
your thoughts about that?
you don't, as a baby, you don't learn how to walk and run, right? You learn how to crawl first, and then you get up and you're kind of wobbly, and then you take some steps and you fall. Like you said, action is what you need to do. Take your first step. It's not going to be pretty, but then take your second step and your third step. And there's really a lot of ways that you can get more opportunities to speak, and you can join communities and those kind of things. But when you're prepared and you know what you're going to say and you have kind of the framework around you, it makes it a lot easier. I'm a real fan of having, like, you have as a speaker, you have this speaker one page, right? Well, I've developed a speaker one page that's on a landing page. So it's fresh. If I change my topic, I can just go in and change it. It's got my headshots and my bio, and it's got talking topics, takeaways. It's got, hey, I've been here and I've been there and I've been featured there. It really creates this kind of brand that speakers or hosts, event planners, they want to find you and they want to get more information about you. Why not build your speaker page in a website format?
Podcasting, for guesting, for all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
It's a powerful tool. Never thought about that before. That's really interesting. I love that concept.
I
So
call
when
it a
did
speaker.
it, oh, there you go. We'll dive into that in a while. Now, how many takes did it take for you to get confident? Now, you've been doing this for many years. Like, you obviously take your journey back into the beginning. Like, what was it like when you felt like, okay, I'm kind of getting this thing now?
Well, so that same mentor that talked in Soundbites, she's the one that said back in 2018, this is the future. Go get yourself a Blue Yeti mic, which was my first microphone, and set up, get a camera, a webcam, and I didn't do the webcam thing, and then go do it, right? Like I said, I didn't have guests on my show for the first maybe 10, 15, and then I started finding friends that I could drag onto my show and practice on. But for me, kind of where it really got comfortable was after probably 20 or 30 episodes, and I started bringing guests on, and I found that that was my skill set to interview them to make them look like rock stars, and therefore they made me look like a rock star.
Love that. And there's this thing that we can go into, right? It's like the pro versus the amateur, right? There's doing podcasts, right? And we've probably crossed 30 now in our podcasts, which for me is a great celebration.
Yes, it is.
But
But you beat most people out of 10, right? They never get out of past the 10 gate.
I heard that the top percentage, like I think 20, my benchmark was 20. I said, I've got to get 20 because that puts me in the top 3% or something of the
Exactly.
podcasting industry. How crazy is that? Like, it's just a big open market of opportunity. However, there is doing it right and there's doing it wrong, right? Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what does right and wrong even look like?
So let's start from the guest side. What is right and what is wrong? And then I'll flip around to the host side. So the
Awesome.
guest side, it's really important you are being showcased on someone else's show. Like you're being kind enough to showcase me on your show today, Matt. So what happens is my job is to provide really valuable content that the audience wants to hear. I don't want to talk for 20-minute rounds, which I can do easy. I want to talk in shorter runs and then feed it back to the host. But I think the most important part that people get wrong is they talk about whatever or whatever the host wants. And what I found is when you align your speaking topics to what you know best and what is going to potentially drive business opportunities to you, then you're really turning a podcast into a tool that's going to bring you client acquisition. It's going to bring you revenue. It's going to bring you the visibility you want. As an example, I have a client now, and she's a coach, and she loves doing retreats. And she was on a podcast talking about retreats. And that's not what she does. That's what she likes to do, but that's not her business. So that episode was never going to give her an opportunity to bring clients into her space because she was talking about something that wasn't her business. And I think that's where people get it wrong. They talk about something. I had a gentleman say, "Oh yeah, this is a loss leader." And I'm like, "Well, what are you wasting my time for then?" What are you wasting your own
Crazy.
time for?
Yeah, yeah.
Use this as a really powerful tool to bring in opportunities for yourself.
Love that. And I love that whole context. Oftentimes, not all the time, but every now and then I get a client and they just keep rambling. The thing that you're talking about, like they talk
It's
and
hard
talk
to
and talk, and
stop.
it's fun. And I get that, right? We all love to teach. We all love to be talking about ourselves and talking and helping and all that kind of stuff.
Especially as
Let's
coaches and consultants.
Yeah, exactly. The over talking thing. So from the guest side, say you were going to guest, what tools would you give to somebody to give them the capacity to think about what they're saying and how to create structure in what they're saying?
Oh, that's so good. And I should be spooning a mouthful of that in myself today, but I think the best part is to be really clear and concise on what you want to talk about. If you go down one lane, right? Not the whole kitchen sink and this is when I was 12, I was at a lemonade stand and one thing, one direction, and have a
Yeah,
clear, concise message that's maybe bulleted in front of you. These are my 3 to 5 talking points. Then you can be really concise and clear. If you're talking in sound bites, you answer the question, you give a brief answer, and then you elaborate a little bit on it. Little bit.
I love that because from the guest side, there's learning as well. Like if you're going to show up on a podcast, it's a skill that you need to learn as well to bring in the right, like you obviously got to answer the right questions in the right way, but then that it means something. And so it makes the audience like listen in or lean into what you're saying. That's so important. I never thought about that. And that's a very important aspect, right? If you're going out there to speak on podcasts, you have to have etiquette. You have to have a structure. You have to have a thought process. And like you said, sound bites, but having the bullet points. I love that idea to have
So
clarity on what you're
helpful.
saying.
It's
Yeah.
so helpful. Yeah, I think that that's really where you're going to get your message across better too, and the audience will be able to comprehend and understand. And you're not going down rabbit holes or chasing squirrels. It makes it a lot easier.
That is such good advice. I love that. Now let's talk about the person that's producing the podcast. Let's talk
The
about some of the
host
mistakes
side.
and the host side, good and bad.
The host side. Okay. The bad parts are the things that the host will do will have a set of questions that they're asking. They're not listening. I don't know about you, Matthew, but I've been on podcasts where someone has asked me a question that I literally just answered. Or they go, yeah, great. Okay, so the next question is ABC 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
boring. How
Yeah.
about a conversation? And if you do a pre-call, which is really important that I do, I schedule a 15-minute pre-call with every one of my guests. And if you can't make the pre-call, you're not going to be on my show. So in that pre-call, I'm looking to get the right topic and angle for our discussion. And I'm going to pull out of my guest the top 3 talking points that they're going to talk on. Then I ask them to go back through my funnel and system and put those talking points and their topic into my questionnaire so that when I produce the podcast and 2-3 weeks later, when we finally record, we both have the same information in front of us. We're going to be on point. Then, once that's settled in place and you know you're going to talk about this, and these are your 3 talking points, have a conversation. If you go down a rabbit hole, try and pull them back out or just let them go. But have a conversation. I think people appreciate listening to a conversation rather than a school lecture. Or worse, a
I love
horrible
that.
interview with questions that don't align.
Oh, yes. I've got goosebumps thinking about that because I did that mistake in the beginning
We all
so
have.
badly.
We all have.
And to be honest, in the beginning, it was helpful because it gave me a kind of a framework. I still have a framework with all questions. They kind of generalize, but it gives me structure on the direction that I want to go. But now I'm very careful not to kind of stick with that structure, kind of listen to like I'm listening to you and finding these cool little nuggets of gold that we're diving into and to be able to provide value, right? So good. I love that.
And it
Very,
makes a
very
much more
powerful,
natural conversation.
isn't it? Doesn't it? So on the post side, what are some of the things that people should avoid? Some of the mistakes that you see people making in this?
One of my biggest habits, and forgive me, world, and forgive me, Matthew, is sometimes getting too excited and talking over somebody. That's a terrible mistake that we all make. But try and breathe. Let a little
Yeah.
bit of that pregnant pause, that dead air go for a half a second and try and let them finish their thought. Now, granted, if they're rambling, if your guest is rambling, you want to kind of go, yeah, and thank you. That was really good. That would be a way to interrupt them and bring them back
Oh,
in.
wow.
But
That's a good strategy.
it's a hard one when you get excited people, and I'm easily excited when, you're passionate about the topic that you're talking on. I think
Good.
also one of the things that we can do as podcast hosts is to make the guest look like a rock star, right? Really tee them up. You may already know the answer to the question. You may be an expert in the answer of that question. But when your guest is there, if you can tee them up with what you want them to answer, then it makes it so much better. They're like, wow, that was a great question, Marcia. That was really good, and it turns out so much better.
Actually, and that's why I'm just loving all of this stuff. It's really so much gold, so many nuggets. And this is the beauty about a podcast is when you're doing a filtering system and you've got people coming in your world that are, fairly, knowledgeable about certain topics. How cool is it? How cool is the learning experience alone, right?
Met so many amazing people in the 7 years I've been doing it. It's like, wow, I gain a little bit of knowledge. I don't steal your intellectual property and put it into my business practice and go, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, I talked to this guy on my show and he said this, and that. Maybe you should talk to him, right? It makes great referral sources and so on. But I think that just the idea, I'm a giver. So I want to provide tremendous value to the audience so that they enjoy listening, that they're writing notes so fast that they can't, catch up enough, or maybe they have to pause it and go back to hear it again. That to me is tremendous value and really makes a show worthwhile. So I encourage my guests to give it all out, because if you gave somebody and I know you probably experienced this, Matthew, is you've given somebody the exact step-by-step to do. Do this first, do that second, do that third, and it's going to work for you. The probability of them being able to execute on that is slim to none. So they're still going to go, now you've blown their mind for the possibilities. They're going to come back to you to help them execute it because they don't do it themselves, or they would have done it because, yeah, it's been out there for a
It's the
while.
new one. Yeah, exactly. If everybody was wealthy and millionaires, like where would it all be, right?
Right.
So I want to dive into, you've got this cool system. It's called the Profit Booster Podcast Monetization Hub. Now, how did this all come to be? Like, what made this kind of eventuate?
Well, again, I've been doing it for about 4.5 years, 5 years by this time, and I had created systems for myself. Podcasting is a job. It's a job if you let it happen like that. And most of us already have a business, and podcasting in the beginning doesn't yield a lot of revenue or profit. So you probably, forgive me, podcast producers, you probably don't want to pay somebody $2,500 a month to produce your podcast if it's not making you money. For me, I needed to have systems that I didn't have to chase my guests down to give me their headshot and their intro, 5 minutes before we're recording because they forgot to deliver it. And to have the kind of information on the host side that I wanted. I created a system that just made it easy, right? They go in, they fill out a form, they book. Once the form is filled, then they get to book on my calendar on the framework that I allowed. They get to book their slot. Then I have automations that remind them to come prepared. We have a brief 15-minute call, and then I send them back through my funnel with the information that I need for production and what we're going to talk about on the show. Then they get to book their recording session based on their time. And then there's a whole bunch of automations that remind them and send them emails and stuff. That to me was a lifesaver in being a host and not having to chase people down to get the information or the time or send them a reminder. Don't forget, we're talking in an hour, right? This is standard stuff that often people forget and don't use. That's a system. And if you have systems, then the job gets a little easier and takes less amount of time during the day. So I just get to show up like a rock star and record.
Love that. And that's a thing, right? Like everything in business that we do, right? We need, like, podcasting, it for me has become a very important tool. In the beginning, we had to wind up the wheel, but it's onerous, right? It's like you gotta, there's 3 steps, there's multiple steps to it, as you just highlighted, right? And it can be like, if you're not kind of tidying up all those little loose ends, they can kind of start becoming overwhelming, right? And you go like, then I forgot to remind my podcast guests, oh my God, they didn't turn up and they're waiting for you and you didn't know they were waiting for you. There was no communication. And then it's like, it really sounds like you've kind of dialed all those pieces in, because I've experienced this myself, the overwhelm, the complexity, the thoughts that go through my head, trying to get everything organized. Like, this just sounds like a really cool, awesome tool.
Well, then I think once you record, there's more systems that you want to have in place to make the conversation go better, right? Everything is systemized. And when it's systemized, it makes it easier and it makes it tolerable. Whether you're recording it, whether you're hunting guests, whether you're delivering collateral afterwards, I deliver a whole bunch of stuff that my guests can use to market me. They think it's to market them. It's to market me. It's got my logo on it, my pretty face with their face, right? And that kind of stuff, it's all systemized. So then for me to get a podcast episode from guest introduction to post-production, it's so much easier now.
And those are the big, like, for me, it's like there's 3 components, right? It's finding guests, quality guests. Your system covers that, right? It's finding quality guests. Then it's on the day recording. There's systems and producing, like getting the recording, making sure the guest shows up, knowing what questions is going to get asked, how the structure of the podcast goes. These are all very important aspects of it, right? And then there's post, because now you got to produce, get the word out there and do some marketing. So let's start about the front part, right? Talk to me about your client acquisition, your podcast
My
acquisition.
guest acquisition. I like that.
Your guest
So
acquisition.
I have there's a couple of really strong groups out there that allow you to hunt podcast guests. Podcast guests are actually they're advertising, hey, I want to be on somebody's show. This is my topic. You have to filter through pitches, right? And I try to really stick with what are my pillars that I talk on. And for my show, Profit with a Plan, I talk on increasing revenue and driving growth so you can eventually sell your company. I make sure that the person I bring is not selling real estate, right? It's not a health person. Sorry for you mindset people out there. I don't do a lot of mindset, so I kind of limit that to 1 or twice a year. But I'm talking action and tactics and strategies that fit into those 3 pillars. So I filter a lot of people. But if you use these groups and these organizations, you can find guests very easily there. Please don't ever charge somebody to come on your show so you can produce it and give them stuff. I think that's a bad juju. Bad juju for podcasting when you charge someone to come on. I'm not Joe Rogan, so I'm not going to charge you, a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 to come on my show. So make it free. And then the other thing is once you get some momentum, there's a set of podcast hunters, as I call them, that are out there that people pay to have them hunt for opportunities for them. So it could be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month to have someone go hunt shows for you. Well, they hit me up probably about a dozen times a week. Oh, Marcia, we got Joe Schmo, who's this great guest, and we think he'd be perfect for your show. So it gets easier when you get some momentum.
You touched on the charging part. Now, obviously, there's major podcasts out there, like you just mentioned, Joe Rogan, and all respect, like I would pay thousands of dollars to be on Joe Rogan's show.
Well, because of his degree you're going to get. But on my show, I got a couple thousand downloads, a month, it's not like I'm not in the capability of getting a couple thousand or million downloads per episode. That's a different caliber.
So that highlights a point, right? It's like the purpose of the podcast that we're creating, it brings it back to understanding that this is more of a marketing tool for creating network connection and getting an opportunity to get your word and your voice out there from presenting or creating podcasts. If you're going to speak on other people's stages, it's about building your credibility up to go and speak on the best podcast you can possibly get and building up that momentum to drive it. What are your thoughts about that?
Well said.
Well said. Awesome. Because this is how I look at it, because I'm so interested in the whole podcast thing, because I never did this before. And my mentor said, you just got to do it. Like, just get out there and do it, right? And I was umming and ahhing, and then eventually I was like, yeah, got into it. Now I'm 30 down, and I'm like, this has been an amazing journey. Like, so worthwhile, so rewarding, learning, the growth. Like, even now I'm getting traffic, right? Like, I wasn't always targeting the traffic. And my mentor said that. She said, don't just focus on the traffic, focus on getting out there and meeting people. Because everybody wants to talk about themselves, right? Who doesn't want to be on a podcast?
Everybody wants to
Your
talk.
thoughts?
Finding guests is not the hard part.
Why do you say that?
Well, because like you just said, everybody wants to talk, right? But then you as the host, you want to be very specific in the guests that you bring on. And that's why it's so important to have that pre-call. Because then you dial in. I like to say, well, we're here for a couple reasons, to figure out the topic and your takeaways, but to also make sure that, God, you can carry on a conversation and you don't have horns sticking out of your head, right? Because I've had guests early on that would give single line answers. And I'm like, pulling answers out of them. They couldn't, I'm like, oh my gosh. Or talked about random stuff. And I'm like, where did you go?
It's a skill, right? It's a skill as a host to be able to create that outcome that's tangible. And I love this idea, right? It's like filtering is quality. At a point, you're going to just do quantity because I think that's an important aspect of just the growth. But at some point, you've got to dial in the quality versus the quantity, right?
Exactly.
It's going to be a point where you go like, okay, now I realize I've got somebody that talked about their dog and their cats and somebody that talked about mindset and stuff that's not relatable, and that's fine. At some point, you got to be like, okay, I'm here helping people with pain and struggle in a certain area. Let's just dial
Exactly.
that in. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm a huge fan as the host to have you mentioned this earlier, to have a topic that you're an expert on, but that others could fill in gaps or validate what your beliefs and philosophies and frameworks are. And I think that's really important because then you can come in, I like to say, with some yeah. You can bring in your experiences and your skill set, and then it becomes a conversation rather than a training lecture.
Love it. So, in your overall process, what does this really mean for people that are out there looking to do podcasts? What is it? How are you going to help them?
Well, like I said, I'm a giver. I give a lot of value. I like to put strategy with this really powerful media. If you just jump in and you start talking and you don't have any kind of intention or follow-up plan or any kind of, we'll call it a lead magnet value that you can offer that is on your similar topic, then you're wasting your time. So I found that if I can add value and strategy to people, then they're going to make this medium a better place for all of us. So is it kind of tree hugging? Maybe, but yeah, I think so. So I teach strategy. I have software and a system that automates everything and makes it super, super easy. And then I made it as like the lowest barrier to entry to get in and get started that, even if you're not making any money with it, it's not going to break the bank, right? And so I figured if I could do that, then I could change the landscape of podcasting and really turn it into the vehicle that it can be, which is a power PR and visibility tool that also creates opportunities to bring in business for the people that are on the podcast. Wow, that was
And
good. I
how?
hope we recorded that.
Yeah. Well, that was really recorded. So I love that. Something you mentioned there, and I think this is something I think there's like this barrier of blockage for some people. It's the lead magnet process and what that actually means for a podcast. Because I don't think there's no real clear instructions on the process, but we all kind of have this idea about we got to give away a lead magnet or we got to try and
No,
what's the next steps. Like, talk to me a little bit about this
I have
process.
so many people come on my show and their call to action is, oh, book a call. Well, first of all, a call is the most highly committed thing that someone is going to do. That's the last thing that someone hearing you for the first time is going to pick up the phone and book a sales call or a discovery call or a helpful call, right? Nobody's going to do that. Or the second worst thing is, oh, just go follow me on LinkedIn. Okay, that's great. How do you know they're following you? How are you going to stay in contact with them? So it leaves this big open gap. It's not too heavy as a phone call. That's a huge commitment. That's like you met somebody at the bar and you say, let's get married, right? Something that has no opportunity to stay engaged with them. So an ideal lead magnet is
Yeah.
something of value that is, in all said and purposes, gate kept. They have to give a name and an email address to get. And so therefore it has to be something valuable enough that they will give their name and email address to, and that it aligns with the conversation you just had. So maybe it's you gave steps 1 through 3, but steps 4, 5, and 6 are in the lead magnet to kind of put a bow on it. Or it's something really valuable to help them process what they just heard you say. And when you do that, the purpose of it is for you to be able to continue to nurture the conversation with the prospect until they're ready to buy. Can't do that through LinkedIn.
That is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see that a lot. People like email me at blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no one's ever going to email you, right? Who the hell is going to do that? However, here's my take on this. I found in our marketing that we do that people don't want necessarily ebooks and all this long paraphernalia. What I like to do is advise people to create cheat sheets, quick checklists, something that's a hack or some quick resource that that's really super valuable, that just wants them to do the thing that we've been talking about.
Exactly.
And when done
Audits
correctly,
are really popular now.
Sorry?
Audits and
Audits.
quizzes.
Quizzes are good, yeah.
So
However,
if you can audit a problem that they have and tell them where they are and what kind of gaps they have, those are really popular now too.
love that. And with AI around, we can do these things quickly now. It's become a really good resource to use as lead magnets, right? And then it's thinking outside the box, right? As a business owner, you want to be able to make the podcast or the opportunity that you have be the most valuable thing for that opportunity, right? And so what is the best thing you can give away at the end that's going to be like, people are going to be like, oh, well, because if they've listened to the end of the podcast, right? And
the other thing, you don't have to wait till the end of the podcast to give it away.
there you go.
You can give it away in the beginning of the podcast. You can repeat it in the middle of the podcast, and you can give it away again at the end of the podcast. So you have commercials of sorts. And it could be your own commercial if you're the host, or you can give that commercial opportunity to the guest. So they've talked, like you give your lead magnet at the beginning of the show, then about midway through the show going, wow, Matthew, I know that listeners are loving this conversation. Where could they find you here, right? Just in case they don't make it to the end, where can they find you, right? And then you do a mid-roll, right? And bring it in, and then you go back to the conversation and then give it again and done. Ads can be placed strategically, and this could be technically an ad, every 10 minutes. As long as they're short. You can't run on the ads, but like a 15-minute or 15-second insert.
And I never thought about that. This is crazy. Like, you're giving me so many amazing ideas. My team is going to be like, Matthew, just calm down.
Directions.
All these things.
But Marcia
all these things. It's cool. I love it. This is so valuable. I've really enjoyed this conversation. There's so many things that we've talked about. We've gone into message, over talking, the pre-call stuff that you've talked about, having the 3 points. We're talking about going through imposter syndrome. Like, I've written all these notes. The lead magnet stuff, that's great. Like, all of these things I'm going to be using and implementing.
I love it. And I'm so happy that you're at least somebody's getting some really juicy stuff out of this. But it's like literally over 7 years of podcasting. And I have to say, I'm an old hag when it comes to podcasting these days, because most people fall off really early. Like, if you make it a year, you're a rock star. And here I'm going 7 with the same podcast, same topic and content, and it's still relevant.
Wow. If you think about it in the grand scheme of things, how quickly things change and shift so far in today's economy, having a 7-year-long podcast, like, that's crazy gangbusters, right?
I'm an old hag.
That's super pro. So I'm 100% confident that all the stuff that we've talked about today is valid and important information, and that the process that you were discussing, the system and tool that you have, like, that is amazing. For anyone doing a podcast, I'm super interested to hear more about that. But for my audience and for the people that have been listening to this, tell me how they can get your lead magnet and find out more about you and how they can understand more about podcasting and accelerating their business.
Wow. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share this, Matthew. This has been really a labor of love for me to create this product, right? And so what I've done is I have created an ROI reality check. So it's really simple. It comes in and you decide, it's choose your own adventure. You decide whether you're a host or a guest, and you answer about 8 questions that you should know. and it's going to give you a rating and some ideas on the back end of how you can improve your guesting or your hosting in your podcast. And I think that's tremendous value right there. And it doesn't require that you speak to me on the phone to get the answers. You get all the results right away. And it's a reality check, it's a quiz, and it's super easy to do. And then I provide value for you, and I hope you take that and run with it. But you can go get this ROI reality check at profitboosterpod.com. So Profit Booster is my branding, and pod is short for podcast. So really easy to remember, profitboosterpod.com. And when you go there, choose your adventure and have fun. And I hope you get some value out of it.
Booster podcast. Say
No
that
cast,
again, Profit.
pod. Profitboosterpod.com.
Profitboosterpod.com. Guys, we'll be putting that in the show notes. You can jump right in and hang out with Marcia, go and play with the tool, and then, who knows, take it to the next level. I know for myself personally, podcasting has been an extraordinary adventure. I know there's so much tech and complexity that can come with it sometimes, but having a clear and easy to use system changes the game when you build that in place. And why try and do it all yourself when somebody's already done the heavy lifting for you, right? It's finding the who, not the how. Love it. Marcia, it's been an honor and a privilege hanging out with you today. I really have enjoyed this conversation. It's been super, super valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew, for having me. And thank you for podcasting. Like I said, this is a fantastic medium. And what you're doing for your audience is you're providing them with value and the tools that they need to be able to grow. So thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. We will see you on the next show.